End of the day, just to tell the truth. So hopefully we can get down to the bottom of this. I'm 100%, the charges against me are 100% false, and hopefully due to time, we'll start to see that.
Well, Bill and Sade, accepting a plea agreement would mean that Sean Combs would have to admit to trafficking and force. And today he made it very clear that was not going to happen. Diddy maintained all along these encounters involved consenting adults and plans to take his chances that a jury agrees.
Well, it's not up to me. It's up to Mr. Combs, and I don't see it happening.
Why?
Because he believes he's innocent. He believes he's innocent. And what's more, he believes that he needs to stand up, not just for himself, for his family, and for everybody who's been targeted by the federal government.
We're talking Sean Diddy Combs facing these incredibly serious federal charges: racketeering conspiracy, sex trafficking.
Yeah, and the trial, well, jury selection is kicking off like right now in Manhattan.
Exactly. And the plot twist, it is thickening fast. Faster than you can say Bad Boy Records.
Well, what's really gripping, I think, is just the sheer scale of it all, what the prosecution's actually alleging here.
Right.
This isn't just, one or two things. They're painting this picture of a whole operation, like a network built for some really serious illegal stuff.
Makes you think about how these empires, actually work behind the scenes. And wouldn't you know it, right in the middle of this whole thing is someone super close to Diddy himself.
His son,
Christian Combs, Ben Combs, yeah. And the word on the street is he's been talking to the feds. And he might just be holding the key to this whole entire case.
Yeah.
It's that kind of family drama you usually only see on TV.
It really does raise some fascinating questions, doesn't it? About family loyalty, legal stuff.
Oh boy.
I mean, when someone inside that kind of tight family unit becomes a potential witness, especially in something this big, the dynamics are just incredibly complicated.
Yeah.
It really says a lot about how serious this whole situation is.
So what's the timeline? Like, when did this start? Apparently, Christian sat down with the prosecutors, not once, but twice.
Twice?
Yeah, way back in early April. And here's where it gets interesting. That was right around when Diddy's lawyers started feeling kind of shut out.
Okay, yeah. You can almost picture the scramble behind the scenes, right?
Totally.
That timing, yeah, it's definitely significant.
Yeah.
And the defense strategy now, suggesting Christian might be this sort of mystery witness, it suddenly makes a bit more sense, doesn't it? They're probably trying to get ahead of whatever he might say, plant some doubt early on.
So what kind of dirt could Christian actually dish out? Well, hold on to your hats, apparently.
Okay.
We're hearing he had, like, the ultimate VIP pass to Diddy's whole world.
Yeah.
The private jets, the exclusive guest lists, the hush-hush money flow that apparently fueled all those big parties. Hamptons, Miami, from, like, 2015 to 2022. These weren't your average get-togethers,
No, clearly not. And the prosecution, they're definitely trying to frame these as more than just, fancy parties.
Yeah.
They want to show they were, like, essential to this whole alleged criminal thing. So Christian's firsthand knowledge, who was there, how it worked, that could be absolutely crucial for them.
And it gets even juicier. There are whispers, right, about encrypted messages.
Encrypted, okay.
Yeah, allegedly showing Christian himself setting up these, like, luxury flights, inviting the elite guests to these so-called secret all-white parties.
Wow, secret all-white parties. That phrase alone.
I know. In the Hamptons. And those yacht parties down at Biscayne Bay, that detail's going to get people talking.
For sure. And using encrypted messages, well, that suggests trying to be discreet, right? Maybe trying to operate outside normal channels.
Exactly.
And if Christian was involved in booking things, arranging things, it points to him knowing more, being more involved, maybe.
And who is picking up the tab for all this? The story is a whole network of shell companies linked back to Bad Boy Entertainment.
Ah, the shell companies. Classic.
Sounds like a financial maze, right? Designed to hide where the money was really coming from. Why else would you do that unless you had something to hide?
Exactly. The prosecution's definitely going to argue that this complex web of companies was set up on purpose to hide money tied to illegal stuff.
Makes sense.
So understanding how that money flowed,
Yeah.
that's going to be key for their case.
And the prosecutors are laying it out there pretty clearly. They think these flights weren't just about getting people to a party.
Oh.
They think it was actually part of an operation, using staff maybe to move people around for illegal purposes.
Okay, that's a huge accusation.
It really is.
That's where the legal stakes just go through the roof. They're not just saying there was bad behavior, they're saying there was a criminal enterprise with a specific illegal goal.
Yeah.
They're gonna need some serious evidence to connect those flights and logistics to actual illegal acts.
Okay, now get this. There's supposedly a sealed memo floating around.
Sealed memo, okay.
And it apparently outlines 6 potential bombshells Christian is ready to drop.
6. Like what?
We're talking names on the private jet lists, who is getting paid by these Diddy-linked companies, even like live chats that happened during the parties.
Wow, live chats.
Apparently. And he also supposedly knows stuff about what the security teams were up to, how the money got split after these events.
Okay.
And even like advice that was shared when the media started sniffing around. It's like getting the ultimate inside scoop.
That's a lot. The sheer variety of that potential testimony is pretty remarkable. It touches on so many different parts: travel, money, communication, security, even damage control. If Christian can actually back all that up, it could give the prosecution a really complete and, frankly, damaging story.
And think about this, even Diddy's own defense team admits that when they did those raids,
Yeah.
they seized 14 devices from his homes that had private conversations with Christian on them.
14 devices.
Yeah. So there's definitely a digital trail of them talking. You have to wonder what's on those things.
Oh, absolutely. Those private messages, texts, whatever, that's a potential goldmine for both sides, isn't it?
Totally.
Prosecution's looking for anything to back up Christian's story or just show wrongdoing. Defense is going to try and spin it their way, obviously.
And it doesn't stop there.
Yeah.
Apparently, a forensic accountant found Christian's name, like approving yacht rentals, catering bills, on some invoices.
So he was signing off on stuff.
Seems like it. So he wasn't just, hanging out.
Hmm.
He had some involvement in the money side, which suggests he knew at least somewhat where the cash was going.
Mm-hmm. That detail connects him directly to the financial part of these parties. Makes it harder for the defense to say he was totally clueless, right?
Yeah.
It puts him in a position of having at least some responsibility, some knowledge.
And like we've heard, testimony from close family in these kinds of conspiracy cases, it's rare.
Very rare.
But when it happens, what does it pack a punch with a jury? There's this feeling of, trust, intimacy.
Yeah.
It makes that testimony really powerful. Jurors listen closely.
Absolutely. Jurors often see family members as having this unique, unfiltered view. When a family member testifies against someone, it can be incredibly persuasive. It suggests they really believe it, enough to break ranks,
Okay, let's switch it up. How's Diddy's team planning to fight all this?
Well, their main line seems pretty clear. Everything was between consenting adults.
Right. That's going to be the core argument.
That's the narrative they're pushing hard. It's a common defense in these types of cases. Shift the focus onto the alleged choices of the people involved, argue it was all voluntary.
And the prosecution has to prove otherwise.
Exactly. Big burden on them.
And Diddy himself, he's clearly not backing down easily. He reportedly turned down a plea deal.
Oh, yeah. What kind of deal?
One that would have capped his sentence at 12 years, which is still a long time.
12 years. Wow. Turning that down. That tells you he thinks he can beat this in court, or at least his team does.
This is a huge gamble, isn't it?
Massive gamble. Rejecting a deal like that usually means you either strongly believe you're innocent or you're incredibly confident your lawyers can win over the jury. High stakes either way.
And his legal team, they're not holding back, calling the government's case total fiction. Hyped up drama, they're coming out swinging, trying to tear down the whole prosecution story from the get-go.
Yeah, that's classic defense playbook in these big, high-profile fights. You got to create doubt, challenge everything the prosecution says every step of the way.
They're also saying the government is twisting like a normal father-son bond and turning what they call just regular hospitality bills into some kind of criminal plot. Basically, painting the prosecution as overreaching, making mountains out of molehills.
Right. Trying to normalize the behavior, frame the evidence as, just extravagant parties, maybe a bit over the top, but ultimately innocent stuff you see in the entertainment world.
Make it seem mundane.
Exactly. Misconstrued.
And here's another key part of their plan. Arguing the whole case is built on witnesses who just want money.
The civil lawsuit angle.
Yeah, saying they're not looking for justice, they're looking for a payout. It's a direct hit on the credibility of anyone testifying against Diddy.
Undermining the prosecution's witnesses is fundamental. If you can paint them as having ulterior financial motives, you hope the jury won't believe their testimony.
And their lawyers will argue the evidence just shows consenting adults, being intimate privately,
Right.
trying to frame it all as personal choice, privacy, not crime.
Reinforces that core argument. Anything sexual was consensual, private, and outside what the law should be involved in.
Now, this is a really interesting angle they might take.
Okay.
They're planning to bring in a sociologist.
A sociologist. For what?
To talk about confidentiality agreements at VIP parties. The idea being there's this unspoken code, what happens at the party stays at the party.
Huh. That's creative.
Right. Makes you wonder if a judge will even allow that. Is that a legal defense?
Yeah, bringing in sociological testimony to set a cultural context. That's a novel strategy.
Yeah.
Trying to argue there's an expectation of privacy in those circles. The court's going to have to decide if that's even relevant or admissible for these charges.
Okay, let's circle back to some other stuff happening. That sealed memo we mentioned.
Yeah.
It wasn't just a rumor. It definitely pointed towards someone very close to Diddy possibly cooperating.
Right. An insider.
And that kind of insider view could be incredibly valuable for the government's case.
Absolutely. It just highlights how crucial insider testimony can be in these kinds of cases, especially when things are kept pretty secret.
And remember those Homeland Security raids back in March?
Oh, yeah. Big news at the time.
Huge move. And they apparently grabbed tons of potential evidence. Phones, laptops, financial records, the whole digital shebang.
That's a mountain of data.
You can bet investigators are digging through all of that, looking for any connections.
That digital evidence is likely going to be central to the prosecution's case. Emails, texts, financial transfers, they can paint a really detailed picture, often hard to refute.
And then you had 50 Cent chiming in.
Oh, right. What was he saying again?
Claiming he's got court documents naming other celebrities involved in Diddy's business deals. Who knows if that's real or significant?
Yeah.
But it definitely adds another layer of, celebrity gossip and intrigue to it all.
It definitely underscores the intense media spotlight on this case, doesn't it? And the potential for more names to get pulled into this related to Diddy's business network.
Speaking of networks, subpoenas have apparently been flying around like confetti.
Really? For who?
Trying to get info on celebrity appearances, sponsorships.
Yeah.
And just figuring out how the money actually moved behind the scenes. Really following the money.
Okay, so a really wide-ranging investigation. Trying to map out the financial side of Diddy's empire, see who might have been involved or known about any alleged illegal stuff.
And the prosecutors seem really focused on confirming anything about those rumored celebrity tapes.
Those rumors again.
I know. And any possible links to other huge cases, like the Epstein-Maxwell situation. Just mentioning that connection, even if it's just something they're looking into, that sends chills down spines, doesn't it?
Definitely. The celebrity tapes idea is already explosive, taps into all sorts of speculation about powerful people, and any link to Epstein-Maxwell, that just magnifies the scrutiny tenfold, public and legal.
The financial digging alone has apparently uncovered this super complex setup, like 17 shell companies.
17.
Yeah, shuffling at least $74 million between 2016 and 2023. That much maneuvering. It just looks suspicious, right? Why so many companies?
Using that many shell companies is often a huge red flag. Suggests someone's trying to hide the real source and purpose of transactions. Prosecution's going to argue that complexity is the evidence of trying to hide something illegal.
And get this, wire transfers, supposedly directly from Bad Boy Entertainment accounts.
Yeah.
Allegedly paid for everything. Private jets, those huge Hamptons rentals, even the security for the parties.
So connecting the music business directly to the lifestyle and the parties?
Seems like it. Like the Empire was bankrolling the whole scene.
That definitely strengthens the prosecution's case, right? Arguing his legitimate businesses were used to fund and support the alleged criminal side. Draws a direct line between the public image and the accusations.
There are even reports of, suspicious money patterns. Big five-figure cash withdrawals. Happening just hours before some of these so-called high-risk events. That looks like more than just coincidence. Makes you wonder what the cash was for.
Yeah, those kinds of financial blips. They can look like planning or prep for something specific. Prosecution will try to connect those withdrawals directly to the alleged illegal stuff they're investigating.
Okay, this next detail is wild. A $900,000 transfer from Deleon Tequila, one of Diddy's own brands, right?
Yeah.
To some media company that seemed totally inactive, dormant.
Okay.
And then just a day later, that exact amount, $900, allegedly paid for a private jet to that now infamous White Sands weekend in Nassau.
Whoa. That's pretty specific.
Right. A very direct financial link. It's almost like they left a breadcrumb trail.
Yeah, that specific transaction, that's concrete stuff the prosecution can point to, directly linking one of his businesses to the logistics of these alleged activities. That could be really compelling evidence.
Now, the prosecutors are also planning to bring in something called prior bad act evidence.
Okay, what's that?
Specifically, an incident from way back in 2013. 2 former bodyguards claimed they were ordered to wipe guests' phones.
Wipe phones?
Exactly. The prosecution wants to show this isn't like a one-off thing, that it's part of a pattern. Suggests maybe they were trying to hide things even back then.
Whether that's allowed in court, the prior bad act evidence can be tricky legally.
Right.
Prosecution has to convince the judge that this older incident is actually relevant to the current charges, that it shows a pattern or intent.
We're also likely going to hear from 3 former aviation staffers.
People who worked on the jets.
Yeah, including a mechanic who claims flight logs were wiped clean. Passenger names just gone before any audits.
Wiped flight logs.
Yeah. He says Diddy's aviation manager called it a VIP privacy policy. But the prosecution probably sees it differently, like trying to hide who's actually on those planes.
Okay, testimony from the plane crews. That could be huge.
Yeah.
Backing up the travel details, maybe revealing attempts to hide passenger lists. That would definitely support the prosecution story.
And the business fallout, it's already been pretty big, hasn't it?
Seems like it.
Revolt TV, which Diddy was involved with, they quickly distanced themselves.
Right. And Diageo, the giant company behind Ciroc and DeLeon, they did their own review and now say they've totally cut financial ties. Brands are running for cover.
Well, yeah, the potential damage to their own reputation just by association, it's massive. They want to protect their own brands, their own money. Makes sense.
Here's a weird one. Apparently, there's scrutiny over $6.4 million in charitable donations made under Diddy's name.
Charitable donations. What's the issue?
Prosecutors are looking into possible circular financing, suggesting maybe some of that money just got funneled back into his own account somehow.
Oh, wow.
Raises questions about whether those donations were actually, charitable. Yeah, allegations like circular financing, that raises serious doubts about the real purpose behind the donations. Investigators will be digging deep to see if it was genuinely philanthropic or just something else.
And we're even hearing investigators had voluntary chats with Diddy's other sons, Justin Combs and Quincy Brown.
So, not just Christian.
Looks like the whole family is kind of under the microscope as part of this whole thing.
These voluntary interviews, it suggests investigators are really casting a wide net, trying to get information from anyone who might know anything about the alleged activities or just the general context of how things worked.
Now let's talk about how people are reacting, because there's definitely a split, right, within the Combs family, but also in the wider Black entertainment world. It's really complex, really sensitive.
Those different reactions probably reflect a whole mix of things: family loyalty, worries about reputation, but also maybe a real desire for truth, for accountability.
You've got some people who really feel for Christian, like he's caught in this impossible spot.
Yeah, I can see that.
But then others think, no, he had a moral duty to speak up no matter how hard it is. It really highlights that tension, doesn't it? Family versus doing what you think is right.
Absolutely. Those conflicting views just underscore the ethical tightrope people walk when family members get pulled into legal investigations against relatives. There's just no easy answer there.
There are also some serious questions being raised too, like, is family loyalty being weaponized here? Or is this, a targeted attack on successful Black-owned businesses? These are big, important conversations happening alongside the legal stuff.
Yeah, and those concerns tap into broader discussions about potential bias in the justice system, right? And the history of scrutiny that prominent Black figures have faced.
And activists are rightly pointing out the impact this case could have on survivors of abuse.
Definitely.
They're hoping this trial might finally bring some accountability for what's been alleged.
Yeah, these huge, high-profile cases, they can really affect survivors, maybe offer some validation, or honestly, maybe cause more trauma, depending on what comes out and how it ends.
We mentioned some of the financial hits already, like liquor distributors hitting pause on DeLeon tequila orders.
Right.
The business world is definitely watching and reacting.
Those economic ripple effects for Diddy's businesses, they're likely to continue as long as these allegations are out there and the trial is ongoing.
But interestingly, streams of the old Bad Boy music catalog have apparently surged.
Really? That's kind of surprising.
Yeah. It's almost like people are going back to the music because of all this news. It makes you wonder what they're thinking while listening.
Yeah, that renewed interest Could be nostalgia, could be morbid curiosity, could be people trying to square the artist they knew with these really serious allegations. Hard to say.
That Columbia professor who noted a deep generational clash online. It feels like social media is just amplifying all these different viewpoints, sparking huge debates. It's fascinating to watch play out.
Oh, for sure. Social media just blasts information out instantly, and you see every possible opinion, often highlighting those generational divides and how people see things.
Congresswoman Ayanna Pressley even called for data on celebrity-related cases.
Oh, interesting. Why?
Raising concerns about how these situations get handled legally. It suggests this Diddy case is making people ask broader questions about justice and accountability for powerful people.
Yeah, that call for data, it shows this case could have wider ripples, right? Feeding into talks about fairness, transparency in the justice system, especially when it involves famous people.
We're also hearing about maybe selling off minority shares of the Sean John Fashion Archive.
Okay.
And putting a planned Miami hospitality project on hold. His business empire is clearly feeling the heat, making big changes.
Those are definitely signs of the uncertainty, the financial risks tied to all this legal stuff, forcing a hard look at all his ventures.
And even Sibby's, the auction house, they pulled an auction of Diddy's art collection.
Pulled the art auction, wow.
Yeah. Seems like anything associated with him right now is just facing intense scrutiny. It shows how widespread the impact is.
Yeah, canceling the art auction, that highlights the potential hit to the value of his assets and just how sensitive any transaction involving him is right now.
Warner Music Group is apparently looking into whether they might need to freeze his streaming money.
Freeze the royalties, that would be huge.
The potential financial fallout could be absolutely massive, affecting his income for years.
Yeah, freezing streaming revenue, that would be a major financial blow. Could have really long-term consequences for his finances, even his ability to pay for this defense.
Even Howard University, where he's been a big donor, they're watching closely. Charitable institutions are also taking a hard look at their ties to him. They've got reputations to protect too.
Right. Charities have a duty, ethical and financial, to make sure their donors and the money they get align with their mission. They have to be careful when donors face serious allegations like these.
Okay, finally, let's talk trial prep. Jury selection expected to take up to 3 days.
3 whole days, wow.
And potential jurors get a massive 24-page questionnaire.
24 pages.
Yeah. They are clearly going all out to try and find an impartial jury in a case this massive, this public.
That huge selection process, the detailed questionnaire, it just underlines how complex this is and the effort needed to weed out bias when everyone's heard something about the case.
And the judge has already warned jurors, stay away from the news, stay off social media.
Good luck with that.
Right. That's a tall order today. Really shows the challenge of keeping a jury unbiased when the story is everywhere.
Absolutely. Given the media frenzy, the public interest, the judge's instructions are vital for a fair trial. But enforcing it in the digital age, that's tough.
Courtroom security is being beefed up. They've even set up an overflow room for the media.
Yeah, this trial is going to be a spectacle. The whole world is watching.
It really is. The extra security, the media room, it just reflects the intense spotlight this trial is going to attract, underscores how significant it is. The final pre-trial conference is set for Monday morning, so things are moving incredibly fast now. We are right on the edge of this really kicking off.
Yeah, that quick move towards trial shows the court wants to get this moving. No dragging feet on this one.
As we know, Diddy turned down that plea deal.
Right.
He's digging in, ready for a fight, thinks he can win.
Rejecting the plea, yeah, it signals he's determined to fight the charges. Sets the stage for what could be a long, intense, closely watched trial.
He was also denied bail, deemed a flight risk and a concern for witness intimidation.
Oof. That's a strong signal from the judge, isn't it? About how serious they view the situation. Suggests the court has real concerns.
Yeah, denying bail. It means the court thinks the risks of letting him out before trial are pretty substantial based on what they've heard so far.
And the trial itself is set to start just 4 days after that bail denial.
4 days. This is happening like right now. The wheels are turning and fast.
That quick start just hammers home the urgency, the gravity of the charges, and the court's plan to just get on with it.
So as this all unfolds, the stakes just could not be higher. And that potential testimony from his own son, Christian, it really hangs over everything, doesn't it?
It really does. It's the X factor.
It just makes you wonder, with his son potentially taking that stand, could this be the actual turning point? The moment that changes how we understand the whole empire Diddy built? That's the question on a lot of people's minds, I think.